welcome back to Kevin Reviews. I just finished rewatching Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. This is its sequel to the 2004, 2005, I can't remember the year now, of the original Fantastic Four by 20th Century Fox or Studios and Marvel Enterprises. Tim Story comes back to direct the film. This is written by Don Payne, Mark Frost, and John Turman. And then, of course, we have returning for Ioan Gruffudd, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis, as well as the new villain um, Doctor Doom returning with Julian McMahon. And then, of course, we have the Silver Surfer, with played, strangely enough, Doug Jones and Lawerence Fishburne. And I say that because Doug Jones is providing the physical body of the Silver Surfer, whereas Lawerence Fishburne is the voice of Lawerence Fishburne is the voice of the Silver Surfer. So yeah, so we have that kind of thing. So the I think if you see my review of the first Fantastic Four, the the 2000s version of 2000 of Fantastic Four, I remember I remember back then I kind of thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. But after rewatching it, it definitely doesn't hold up, and it definitely doesn't feel like much of a superhero movie as it claims to kind of be, and which is why I gave it 1.5. But I suggest you check out that review before you check this one. In case you want to see this one, you have to see the original first. But suffice to say, um, yeah, I didn't think the original Fantastic Four was bad, but I will say, um, it's not as bad as because I haven't seen it, because I think most people would agree Fan Four Stick, the one that came out in the early 2010s. I don't remember the year, but that that is considered the worst of the Fantastic Four movies of all time. Um, so in this, so I mean, I'll give you my thoughts on like where I would rank them really, but frankly, Fantastic Four First Steps is the best of all of them, in my opinion. And Rise of the Silver Surfer is basically the predecessor of the Rise of the First Step, because we have the introduction not only of the Silver Surfer, and we also have the introduction of Galactus. Unfortunately, and I'll get into that later, because it's a disappointment. But yeah, my original thoughts, I think it was better. I think it was a little bit better than the first one. Um, but all in all, it was kind of underwhelming. Again, it was pretty underwhelming. But that was my first impression. So when I first saw it, I don't remember when I saw it, but I know that it was better, a little bit better, but not not a ton to not as great. So, but let's not waste time. Let's get into the review of Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. So, as I said, the story in this is pretty much similar to the first steps. It's just the Silver Surfer arrives and is causing havoc on Earth, um, and the Fantastic Four has to figure out what is going on, what he wants, unaware of the impending doom that is Galactus, that is coming to Earth to destroy their planet. That is pretty should be the story, but I think for a good portion of the beginning and middle is uh, is Reed Richards and Sue Storm's wedding, because that's the big celebrity, the big news. It's like, who cares if it's snowing in Egypt and ice freezing in Japan, or in like a huge body of water, um, or any air holes in the ground. It's basically, we got to have the wedding, because that's the most important thing. Yeah, so they're celebrities, so obviously, um, they're really milking the celebrity thing in, especially Johnny Storm, who kind of comes in with like, outfits with ads and stuff, and even comes up, you know, says what's wrong with capitalism and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah. Unfortunately, the storytelling, the motivations, and are off, are really off because unlike the first steps, yes, I am going to probably compare and contrast first steps because I've seen first steps and I think it's greatly superior. Because the one thing is, while we do see them do more hero stuff, that's only within the story of when they're trying to take on the Silver Surfer. There are times where they have to save the day, like in certain parts, and try to even trap the Silver Surfer and save the day at the end. And granted, it's nothing that they caused, so I mean that's at least a good thing, I think. But we don't really see him like be that big of a celebrity because we mainly, unlike in the first steps movie, we see a montage of them doing superhero stuff, that makes them a celebrity. In this one we don't really see it. It's hinted at in some dialogue, but not a ton to really say, oh, you guys are definitely celebrities. I mean, we only saw them fight Doctor Doom once, and of course save the day on a bridge in the first film, but that was technically their fault, or at least Ben Grimm's fault. So it doesn't feel like it's all warranted, really. And yes, the wedding stuff is so is unbelievable because we have all this stuff happening while Reed wants to get this, wants to figure out what's going on and stuff. It's like, oh, we got to worry about the wedding and stuff. We got to, you know, potentially devastating like disasters or things happening, and it's like, nope, got to put it off. We got to get to the wedding. The wedding's more important, even to a point where Sue Storm doesn't really seem to want to care at times, and of course she kind of shifts character a little bit, and even a moment where she has to basically cover a zit with their own, force field invisibility powers and concentrate and keep that zit covered. And I think she covers it for the whole thing, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it doesn't. It tries to play this up more for, I think, kids than you know than for adults. Um, when but with something like this Galactus coming, Silver Surfer and Galactus coming, destroying the planet, that kind of throws the idea of that this being for kids out the window a little bit. Um, and some of the dialogue is not always that great, or it's just kind of cheesy. It's kind of similar to the first one, though they do try to up it a tiny bit, not a ton. There's also a new feature thing about Johnny Storm, who comes into contact with the Silver Surfer and has now, whenever he touches any of the other Fantastic Four members, he swap powers, which granted makes Silver Surfer very inconsistent in terms of how, because if you've never heard of the Silver Surfer at all, he's very inconsistent on what he actually does or what his powers involve. They do mention it, but there are times they don't explain reasons for why he did it. Like, how come when he he made Johnny Storm able to swap powers, or there's a moment where he comes across Doctor Doom, and yes, Doctor Doom's back in this, and then he's actually healed from the last film, which again doesn't explain because he comes in contact with the Surfer, and Surfer blasts him, and then he just somehow magically heals. Um, Again, doesn't make a lot of sense. As for Doctor Doom returning, inevitable, I guess. Like I said, I didn't think Julian McMahon didn't do a bad job as Doctor Doom. Not, I don't think. I might be going back on it. So correct me if I'm wrong based on my other review of the original of the 2004 Fantastic Four, or 2005. I don't remember the year, but I thought he did fine. But the fact they made him more of a businessman, again, the fact that his last name is Doom, which already spells out that he's not a good guy. So I mean, what worked in the '60s doesn't necessarily work out now. So I don't know, but I think he does fine. He does okay. He does not great, not awful, but just okay. So um, I mean, he's definitely power hungry, and he's still just as power hungry as the first one, and just as manipulative. But you know, that's Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom. That's his name. So you get a clue, kind of. I don't know. So you think because he's recruited by the military, you think the military would take steps or actions to kind of prevent him from turning on the people, which they do not. The military is not exactly bright on this. Granted, they are aware about what's going on in terms of the Silver Surfer, and they want to try to stop it, and at least they're putting their concerns about the world or the country first before Fantastic Four involved in the wedding. So I at least give them props for that. But then at times they suddenly kind of turn evil or kind of jerks in the film, which doesn't exactly make sense. Apparently, there's some sort of um, past between Reed Richards and the general. I forget his name. I'll put it in here, but in the video here with but yeah, there's some history there that didn't make much sense either. Um, I don't know. Okay, well, I'm gonna pause here because I do want to get on to the next thing. So sorry. So the other thing is we got the Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer. I will say this: when I first heard about the Silver Surfer, this was the first time I heard about the Silver Surfer. I thought it was stupid. The whole, the fact this Terminator T2, um, Terminator looking character on a surfboard. That's already stupid as it is. But then again, we've ingested other stupid things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing, which shouldn't have worked, but it does. So um, eventually, I've grown a little bit, to like the character, but I haven't read like enough comic books. So there was a time where there was an animated TV show called a Superhero Squad or something like that. I did see a bit of it, and I remember they made Silver Surfer one of those surfer dudes, righteous and whatnot. So, and yeah, that was stupid. But we don't, unfortunately, unlike the unless the first steps, I think there isn't a ton we know about his backstory. There is a little bit that he hints, like including his name and why he's doing this, but not a ton about his history. It's just kind of thrown to the side altogether. Um, and again, his motivations don't make a lot of sense either. Um, for at at moments though, there is supposed to be one involving his when he talks to Sue Storm. Um, I won't go into it, but it's the catalyst for when he eventually kind of turns against Galactus. And then we have to go, and then yeah, I should also mention in terms of like the whole Doug Jones and Lawerence Fishburne thing. I like the body, the look of Silver Surfer, but I don't think the voice exactly matches. I mean, Lawerence Fishburne has a great voice but I don't see it matching with the body of the Silver Surfer that much. And this is Doug Jones. Doug Jones was played Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies with Ron Perlman. I think they could have just gone with Doug Jones. I mean, doesn't have to be as menacing or anything, but he could kind of be like he looks menacing, but he could also, you know, the voice could be just as soft and delicate, or however they want to make it. I think they would have should have just stuck with Doug Jones altogether. But I don't know. Maybe because Doug Jones has been in movies like also in Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water, as well as Pan's Labyrinth as the Pale Man. He's more into like the costume, or he has the body type of this like thin looking character. So maybe that's why they went with Lawerence Fishburne, because he has a deeper voice that's commanding and intimidating even. I don't know, but I think they should have just stuck with Doug Jones, or maybe just found, you know, a better voice, perhaps. I don't know, but it's kind of iffy. I'm kind of up in the air about the Silver Surfer, but Galactus is a huge letdown. Unlike the first steps where you do see Galactus in all its true form, this Galactus is, spoiler warning, a cloud, and I probably gave that hint away in the thumbnail where it shows my caricature of, that I, created, is covered in this cloud, and that's basically it. Galactus is this large, supposed to be imposing cloud that sometimes takes the shape of the Galactus in the comics, but we don't see it. We don't really see his physical form. We just see the cloud that's supposed to devour planets. Um, and there's not a ton about his like backstory, or a little bit, because Galactus does technically have a backstory that we can in the comics, especially, where we can understand why he has to consume planets. He has to consume planets in order to survive. And in the comics, and I haven't read it, but I've seen videos about his character, where he has to do it to survive, and he doesn't exactly enjoy what he does, but he needs to do it. And so, I mean, it does kind of give the question of whether or not, like, as humans, we would, we want to survive, as, you know survive all at all costs, and even when we're going hungry, we at some point we need food. We would do anything to get that food, even if it means, you know hurting somebody to do that, and it's possible. um so I don't know, but yeah, we don't get any voice or anything from Galactus. He's just a cloud, and that's it. That's a really big letdown, unfortunately. um Effects are, are roughly about the same as the first one. It's a tad bit better, but frankly, the effects for Mr. Fantastic are just as bad and creepy looking. It's more uncanny valley than, I would say, Aelita Battle Angel with big eyes. Um, I don't know, but granted, that was a movie that was much later, but still, it definitely doesn't look that great. Johnny Storms, when he goes flame on, is also not as great. It's okay, but it's not as good as it's not that great, frankly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Um, Sue Storm. Again, in some of the action scenes they do, that's actually really good. They actually try to save people, so there is at least something done. So there's definitely a lot more going on than the first one. They actually travel like places in the world. So I mean, this at least delivers more than what the first one does. So I at least appreciate that. There's also a moment where I wish they could have explored, because when Johnny has the ability now to, because of his contact with the Surfer, to swap powers, um, there's a moment where Ben Grimm turns back into his human self, and I'm like thinking, huh, because Ben Grimm has a new girlfriend named Alicia, who who's blind. But I kind of wondered, it'd be interesting to see what would happen if Ben Grimm decides to say, Alicia, this is the real me, before I have to go back and to the thing. I mean, that would be interesting. You know how his girlfriend would react to that. And Alicia, I think, does fine, but we don't see a ton of moments and whatever to kind of really get much out of her character. It does continue with it, at least in the first one, but otherwise, yeah, I think that would have been an interesting idea. You know, would Ben Grimm be willing to swap powers with Johnny just so he can stay human, versus and Johnny stays as the thing, and because he's supposed to be the ladies' man, and you know, and he probably wouldn't be a ladies' man anymore because he looks like this monster rock thing. But I don't know. That could have been interesting to explore. How they have more time with it. And this is like an hour and 30 minutes, so it's not a very long movie. Um, Otherwise, it's shot okay. It's shot okay at least. There's ideas. Yeah, I do say this is better than the first one, but not a ton. It still does feel like kind of a boring film overall, despite the action getting a bit better, and stuff. And then of course you got the letdown with Galactus. So yeah, there's. I think if I were to rate Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, it would be 2 stars. It is better, um, but doesn't say much. And there is a post-end credit scene, but that doesn't go anywhere. This film did not do well for critics, so it was just kind of the end of Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts on Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And oh yeah, and Jessica Alba, does she do any better? Not really. Not a ton. So, um, but yeah, what are your thoughts on Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer? Leave in the comments below. Like or dislike the review if you wish. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and check out and click the notification bell so you can be updated on any future reviews. I've also put a poll recently. This is today's Sunday, January 11th, um, that I'm recording this, um, for movies. I have 4 suggestions up for movies for next week, so feel free to vote. And I will see you guys in the next review. Bye.